We often hear this concept around people being a victim.
There's always reasons. There's always like a million reasons and valid options that don't give you what you want. But you got to live with that. If you can truly say that you've tried everything, then great. But I think
Bradley Gimbert is the CEO and founder of Indigenous Wealth.
In a year outside of jail, you end up buying your parents a house.
I was adopted though. I wanted to do it because I wanted to be an adopted kid that bought his adopted parents' house. That's it.
You're looking at this as like, I want to play by the same rules. I want this to be as legitimate as possible.
Yeah.
Your company's called Indigenous Wealth, and the mission is to make 100 plus Aboriginal millionaires by 2025.
A lot of people believe that making money and all this sort of stuff is for rich people. Like it's opposite. You know, rich people are rich because.
Bradley, welcome to the pod, man.
Dang, thanks for having me, man.
Excited to have you here, and we're nearing 50 episodes on the pod so far, and I think your story is one of the most magnetic, captivating, intense stories of adversity I think I've heard, and just excited to unpack it with our audience. And I think, you know, to date, it's probably the most gnarly story I've heard in quite a long time. Thank
you. I'll take that. That's a good wrap. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we were talking about this before the pod, which is oftentimes, you know, sometimes there's a lot of beauty within adversity.
Yeah.
As dark and ugly and grim as it can be, you know, sometimes we can take superpowers from those things. We can turn them into strengths, and we can actually do a lot of good in the world with what we've experienced.
100%.
One of the things I wanted to kind of cap off, and I think this is kind of an interesting story, is that you have a love and passion for boxing.
I do. Yeah, I love boxing. How did I get into boxing? Actually, I got into boxing when I was a kid because I was getting picked on at school. I was actually getting bullied, mainly for being Aboriginal, but for a bunch of shit. But I think it was sort of the time of the day. Like, everyone used to sort of pick on each other, but I was hypersensitive about it because there was so much shit going on in my personal life. At that time when I got into boxing, we had just been moved into Housing Commission off the back of like 3 years of couch surfing and sort of being homeless and living in refuges and just really struggling. And then when we got to Housing Commission, that was like our first bit of normal. Our normal, like when we got to that house, there was like a dead dog in there. There was used syringes. Like it was a mess. And so we got that cleaned up, finally got moving and went to school. So getting picked on. I remember being like, you know, my family never like, they were like, oh, someone's picking on you at school, beat his ass. Like,
take care of that shit.
Yeah. And I was like a nerd, like, I was like, well, I don't know, you know. And they're like, yeah, beat the shit out of him. Otherwise, I'm going to beat the shit out of you. I'm like, all right, well, fuck this. And anyway, so I go to school and had a fight with this kid. And I remember sort of, we had a bit of a fight, but it didn't do anything. I kept getting picked on. Like, I didn't cause any damage. Like, I just kept getting picked on.
Just got worse?
Yeah, it just got worse. Like, oh, you can't even fight. So keep picking on him. So that didn't really work. So I got into boxing, started going really well.
How old were you at the time?
14. I was 13. 13 when I started in there. 14 to 9 months is the youngest you can fight. I fought at 14, 9 months. And then what was I? It must have been about 14 then, just before I turned 14. Because I was doing it for about a year.
Wow.
And then I got into fighting, had a fight. And yeah, then I fucking just loved it. Fell in love with it, man. And I actually lost my first 3 fights, which is usually people will quit after that. But I was like, oh, I'm just happy to be here. And then fourth fight, I had I fought for a state title and I won.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was
That's insane.
State champion. And then
at 14.
At 14, yeah,
wow.
yeah. Well, other 14-year-olds, you know. So
yeah, I know, but still.
State champion of the 14-year-olds. Yeah, I was like, yeah, sweet. Then I went in the newspaper. Like, it all started going pretty well. Everything was going pretty cool. Oh, actually, funny. No, sorry. I've glazed over that. So with boxing, I know the story that you want to hear about. So basically, I went to, I was a little street kid. I got into boxing because I was being picked on at school, started going to that little class. I also started fucking being a bad little cunt, and I started getting in trouble.
Being a little mongrel.
Yeah, and they put me on the police program at the PCYC there. And it all just was a marrying up of the worlds. I was on the weekend with some of my bad little street kids who used to always get me in fucking trouble. They jumped a cab. I was in the middle of the cab. And then they jumped out, and I'm fucking stuck in the cab trying to get out.
Oh, no.
And they drove, I'm stuck in the cab, right? This guy driving off. He's like, I'm going to fucking take you to the police station.
They did a runner, and
they
then you were
ran.
stuck.
They ran, and I'm stuck in the cab. And I'm like, because I'm, you know, a little hopeless. I remember just being like, what am I doing? So I'm like, and then get stuck, lost my shoe. Anyway, so he drives. He's yelling at me in Indian. He's like, I'm going to take you to the police station, I'm pretty sure. And then he takes me around the corner. So in Layla Park, there's fucking police everywhere. So there was a cop car parked.
Yeah.
Pulls up behind the cop car. Just by coincidence, the cop car's at the trainer's house of the boxing club. And he's outside drunk, fighting his neighbour. Fucking like...
This is your boxing coach.
My boxing coach, yeah, at Blacktown. I'm not going to say his name, but he's a legend.
Shout out. Yeah.
Shout out, Tez. Anyway, so he's like, he's like having an argument with his neighbour. Comes up to the cab and he's like, "What are you doing, kidnapping kids?" Starts trying to fight the cabbie. Pays the cabbie, gets him out, and then he's like, "Oh, I remember you from fucking boxing." He's like, "Make sure you're fucking there on Monday." Actually, matter of fact, I'm picking you up. And then
He's trying to sell to you in the middle of all this drama.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh yeah," like cops are there, like we don't even know what's going on. Everyone just piss off basically. And then he took me into his house having a barbecue. Then he took me back over there, and so that really encapsulated me from there. But I'm pretty sure that little moment was sort of there to save me because I sort of was doing the right thing, doing the boxing, going down this path, but also doing the wrong thing, you know?
Yeah.
And then
but
that
a little wayward.
had a marrying up of those sort of worlds. And it's like, what do you want to do? You want to be the fucking kid in the cab, or you want to be at boxing, you know? And so that really got me like a bit on a straight path. I stopped really mucking around. I still had the same mates and stuff, but I wouldn't get into any of the stuff. Like there was even a period there like I was hanging out with mates and they would be breaking in houses and stuff. But I wouldn't go into the house. I'm like, I refuse. I know this is not going to be like, I'm not going to, but I'm still with you. Like,
I'm still your friend. I'm just going to wait out the front.
But I'm not going to be doing that shit, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, boxing really got me on the straight and narrow, even though it got me all this fighting ability that inevitably got me into fights. And then I ended up getting put in jail for fighting. It's been the greatest life teacher for me and like mentor and guidance and constant teacher.
Yeah.
So
and you said you went to jail for fighting.
I did. So basically what had happened was when I was, how old was I? 19. So when I just sort of breached the peak of what I was thinking was my real estate career, so worked to get myself out of labouring and terrible jobs into a good career path like property investing, what I really wanted to be doing. Worked and got to this like tip top point in my career, which was going extremely well. In Layla Park, the area that I was living in, there was this sex offender dude that basically I already bashed him once.
Oh shit!
Because he used to follow my girlfriend home, right? And so then just a few years later, he got caught trying to break into my niece's bedroom in his underwear.
My god!
And I was like, you know, literally I was just like, it's this fucking guy again. He's a sex pest. Fucking this dude already belted him. Whatever, I'll sort it out. I'll go down there. And I went down there to sort of approach him. And we're arguing through the door. And so long story short, I end up like, fuck this cunt, rip his door off and go in his house and bash him. So that's what I got charged for, ripping his door off and going in his house and bash, because that's home invasion. And so you can't do that.
Yeah.
In case you're wondering.
Not a small crime, yeah.
You're not allowed to do that, yeah. Did you know that? Yeah. So,
but heat of the moment, you're pissed.
Yeah,
I'm going to take care of this guy.
Fuck this guy, you know? So I'm arguing with him through the door, and I'm like, come outside, like, whatever. And he's just like, nah, fuck off. I wasn't fucking doing anything. I was like, how do you know what I'm here for? We had this argument, and I just was like, you know what? You're smart. I'll just come in there. And I just fucking broke his door down. And then, belt shit out of him. Can't do that. But so that's pretty much what I got locked up for. But the jail case was going on for a while. And my sentencing date had come, like, right at that point. So I was working in this new company, got in the call center. This was like my golden ticket. I was like, this is everything I wanted. I've got a career path ahead of me. I worked like my ass off for that first 6 months and become the youngest BDM in the company's history. Wow. I was still living in an house commission. I was like by far the poorest and also by far now the youngest to ever do it.
How old were you at the time?
19.
Wow, that's incredible.
Well, 19, 20. Might have been 19, 20, right on thereabouts, but I was fucking young as. Even the boss was like, mate, there's no way. I can't give you... Because I'll backtrack. What had happened was when I went into the interview, they show you the whole company progression on the board, right? And they're like, you know, you can start here, work off, you can become here. They make $200-300 grand a year. You know, you can make a lot of money. And I'm like, how do you get there? And he's like, well, you know, work at the call center. I'm like, well, what's the shortest anyone's ever done it? And he's like, well, 6 months, you know, but you got to break, you know, records and stuff. I'm like, well, what are the records? And just like pushing this guy into a thing. I'm just curious. And he's just like, well, you know, these are the records. And so he's just giving me all the KPIs like without knowing. And I'm like, all right, great. 6 months. Got to do this, got to do that. My mate Cohen, shout out Cohen, he's fucking shit at sales, right? He's good at boxing. He's shit at sales. So he was the only one working in there when I got there. And so the bar was so fucking low. So it was good. And so, love you, Cohen. But yeah. Dustin,
shout out Cohen.
Yeah, shout out Cohen. So we come in, there's another guy, Ali, he done the same thing. But we just come in and smashed it. And then I was like, all right, 6 months is up. Like, let me do the BDM thing. He's like, oh, mate, you need to get more experience off. And I was like, mate, I wouldn't have took the job. Living in housing commission. But I wouldn't have took the job if I knew that. Like, and so he's like, all right, I'll give you a chance. Gave me a chance. I'm on bail. I sat a few meetings. The third meeting I sat, it was an undercover cop. I sold him.
He's like, I'm in.
I'm in. What have you been to jail? No, so and so that's how I got into that, and I sort of established myself.
Wait, so did he actually buy?
Sense. He bought, yeah. I got him to pay. He paid like 16 grand.
So an undercover cop paid 16 grand
to someone on bail.
Yeah,
and that's how I started my real estate career, and that's pretty much why I'm here today. So shout out to the cop. Yeah.
The guy who put you in jail was your first client.
Different cop, but not too far away. It's from a different beat, but yeah, same situation.
Yeah,
that's a
life
very,
gives you lemons, right? You make lemonade.
Yeah, it's a funny, it is a funny journey.
Yeah,
we'll say,
So you were 13, felt like you were a bit of a nerd, getting picked on. 14, learned how to box.
Yep.
And then got quite good at it, won a championship, and then got into some shit with some other teenagers, caught in the cab, so on and so forth. But then, for you, like, has boxing remained something consistent throughout that entire period?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, until like the last probably 2 years, where business has really been like fucking full on, right? It's been something that's been a constant. I still try and get down to the gym, but it's never enough to, like, my boxing bag is still in the locker at the gym, but it's been unattended for a month,
Yeah.
So it's like whenever we get the time, I'm in the boxing gym. Boxing gym. I don't really follow like any other sports. Just follow boxing. Like, really the only thing that I love or like in terms of sports. Very individual, all that sort of stuff. But in terms of, it's been the greatest like life teacher, and why I like it and resonate is because it's just you in there. It's just you, and it's all up to you. And when you strip it all back, every sort of endeavor in life, it is just you. Like, you're born alone, you die alone. A lot of people take that as like a negative. I see it as like a positive. Like, that's the one constant. It's the one thing that you can always control. It's the one thing that you always got like your finger on the pulse of. Like, how's that going? And is that in the best shape or form that it needs to be? Because from that's the center of everything. If that's doing really well, then it's crazy how it works, but it's just everything else seems to be going pretty well as well. Internally, if it's all going haywire, doesn't matter what opportunities you've got sitting on your horizon. Could be the best in the world, but it's never going to come to full fruition because you're not looking after yourself, or you're relying on others to do it. So it's truly independent, and it's like the real crux of life for me.
Yeah, and would you say, like, what are the core lessons or frameworks that you've taken from boxing and applied to business or life in general?
Yeah. Well, you've only got the round that you're in. Love the one you're with. You only got the person like in front of you, right? It is just you in there. Like, there's no one the main one is like, they're all like nice ones. The main one is there's no one fucking coming to save you. Once the bell rings, it's fucking on until someone calls it, or you get what you need, or the fucking thing's over.
Yeah.
It's just you. It's just you. So make no mistake about that. Like, it is just you. But that's empowering. It's like I listened to Joe Rogan always says some cool shit, but I'm not sure how true this is. That's why I precurse it. But the thing about pigs, it's like domestic pigs and boars. So the only difference is that once they're in the wild, they sort of realize that they're wild, and they develop a hard head, get tusks, and sort of turn into a boar.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And there's
I thought there were two different species, essentially.
It's like once they're feral for like 6 weeks, which is sort of like they're on their own for 6 weeks. And I was like, well, that's interesting, because there's always been situations in my life where I've sometimes had people around me, but for the most part, I've been very much like independent. It's been me. And when I feel like I've got the support around me, I feel fucking weaker and less able, to be honest, but that's just me. But when you focus, when you drill down, and you're like, fuck, it is just me. It's all up to me. What am I going to do? That's empowering, because the only thing that can possibly come on top of that is sound advice for yourself. If you sit there and sort of like, this is all fucked, who can I go to? If you come up short, then you're fucked, mate. Like, that is what it is, right? Whereas sometimes it's like, oh, it's just me, I got this, I might not have a good plan, but I got something to move a bit closer to. Like, sometimes it's just about staying the course until an opportunity arises.
I would agree with that, man, because I think, there's been times in my life where, 16, I was essentially kicked out of home.
Yeah.
And I, stayed at a few friends' houses on their couches and stuff. And I was like, man, I can't keep doing this. So then I started job hunting. was terrible at it. I went to McDonald's and got rejected from McDonald's at 16. And I remember just going, fuck, like, how do I get a job? So then I had to go to Centrelink and get the government subsidies and all the rest of it. But I hated getting money for that.
Yeah, right.
I never felt good getting money from the government. And I was like, I still got to get a job. And I remember I kept going back to this t-shirt shop and just like begging them for a job. And they're like, why do you want to work here? And I was like, I can do graphic design. I can do this. I can do this. And they're like, prove it. I got on the computer and I was like, look, I'm designing stuff. And they're like, okay.
Let me do that.
And then that same day, she's like, well, you got the job. Here's the keys, lock up. And I was like, oh, well, okay. But like, I think that whole situation wouldn't have taken place if I didn't have the desperation to figure out on my own.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like sometimes people have, maybe those comforts around you can be your encumbrance from why you can't do something.
Too many emergency levers, like there's like, oh, she gets too hard, I can fucking pull it and I'm safe, or I can go back to mum's, or I can go to something else, and that's probably been the best thing that I don't have is I don't fucking, as much as people want to help me, they can't help me because they're fucked, they're fucking poor.
So for you, man, like when people say like no one's coming to save you, how can people really embrace that? And what do you mean by, you're alone, you're born alone, you die alone? Some people might hear these things and go, oh, that sounds negative. Like, how do you really take power in that?
Yeah, well, first thing is that no one's ever going to firstly like care about your shit or your life as much as you do. So not only are you like the most capable, but you're in the most benefited position to take that action, right? And so anyone else that you're sort of allowing to that is going to come from a discounted position. So I know it sounds like a negative, like, oh, you're born alone, die alone. It's like, nah, you're the best person for the job. Whatever it is that you want out of life, take full responsibility of it sitting on your shoulders, because 100% you got all the tools in the shed to bring it to fruition. If you didn't have it, your existence would be traumatizing. Like you wouldn't be given the vision if you weren't blessed with like the ability or tools or opportunities somewhere in your realm to bring them to fruition. Right. And it is like up to you to do it, right? And also you're the bearer of all of that. So whether it's positive, negative, like the outcome that you want, don't want, whatever it is, you're the one that's got to sit with it. Like for me, it was like, no one's coming to save me and all that sort of stuff. Was just like, well, the box that I've been put in, I fucking don't like it. It's like, well, Aboriginal kid, poor, blah, blah, blah. Oh, you're doing so well, should be able to. It's like, no, fuck that. I want to be super successful and super rich and wealthy. That's what I want to be. I want all my family to be living really well off. And there's been no one that's ever been like, yeah, that's a path for you. This is how you do that. It's all been, this is what I want. What do I need to do to get there? This is what I want. What do I need to do to get there? If at any point I waited for anyone's sort of permission to do that, or them to give me an opportunity to do that, it would never happen, right? And so taking that approach of like, whatever you want, whatever you see, whatever it is that you want to come away from or whatever, you've got all of the ability to focus on doing it yourself. So maybe instead of like looking for something to help you, just keep looking for the answers inside. Don't give yourself like an opportunity to have that answered or helped by someone else. Just keep looking at what can I do about it? What can I do about it? What can I control? Like, what are the things that I control, and how can I control them? Like, that's literally it, And so I think that would be the proper translation of like, born alone, die alone. It's like, no, what are the things that you can fully control, and are you controlling them to the full best of your ability? Most of the time, there's so many stones left unturned. People are looking for it's much easier if someone else, they got much more tools, they can help me, they're better, they're further along, like all these sort of things. I always get this because I caught up with Mark and a bunch of other people, and they're like, oh, they could help you, but that's not how that works. It's not like people come to you with opportunities so that you can do them, and so you can finally reach fruition of your goal. Like the opposite is true. It's like the only way you get your goal is if you somehow realize to bring it to fruition in opposition of all the things that get in your way.
Yeah, and you're referring to Mark Boris.
Yeah,
and so for those that don't know, he's probably one of Australia's most wealthiest, well-renowned businessmen. And you raise a good point there when it's like, well, this rich person, just get them to help you. And when you get into the upper echelons of business, you start to realize that's not really the rule of the land.
That's right.
Right? So when you start rubbing shoulders with these characters that make a lot of money, they're busy, they got a lot of stuff to do, and they can kind of sniff out bullshit pretty quickly.
Yeah, that too.
And what I've found is through some of the conversations I've had with the most, I guess, networked individuals I've spoken to, is they're like, you got to bring value. Right. And sometimes people like to help and they like to give and they like to feed into communities. But then also it's like, well, what value do you bring to the equation? Maybe they value the feeling of generosity or giving, but not everyone in business is like that. So then how do you get into those circles and how do you become valuable? But you raise a good point around mindset. And I think oftentimes just tilting how you see things can really change how much momentum you're gaining in whatever it is you're doing, right? So there's a really great quote I heard recently from Grant Cardone. He said, wherever you go, there you are. Meaning like you're always the center of your problem.
Yeah.
No matter what's happening, you're there, you're present, and it's like, well, what are you going to do about it?
That's right.
And if you're waiting for someone to save you, or you're waiting for your friends, family, or loved ones to validate, yeah, you should do that thing you want to do, then you're kind of fucked, because then you're constantly waiting for someone else to hit the approval box. And what you're saying is like, fuck that, like approve your own ideas, concepts, pursuits, and get after it.
Absolutely.
But when you talked about you were, always kind of like, I want that, how do I do it? At what point did you start to identify, I want to make money, I want to be successful in business? At what point did you really start to make those decisions?
About 6.
6 years old.
I was a fucking baby. Yeah, I was like, I used to charge people in my house to get them drinks.
What?
Yeah, I saved like $3,000 doing that. Yeah, literally.
When you were 6?
Yeah.
Dude, I was playing Pokemon cards when I was 6. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I've been on the money. Literally, I remember you can even ask anyone I found. They used to ask me when I was, and they used to think it was so inspiring, but I was like, no, about fucking money. They were like, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to be? They always ask kids. And I used to always say, I want to be a lawyer.
Really?
The reason I said that was because when I was about 4 or something like that, my pop said barristers make $600 per 6 minutes. And I was like, sign me up for that. I'm going to be a fucking lawyer. Right? And they'd be like, what do you want to be? Lawyer. They make heaps of money.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was
next question. Yeah.
Move on, But I was super aware and smart like when I was a kid, but I don't know. I just could always map it out that, money is required to live life on your own terms. Right now, like for example, like everyone was going to work. I'm like, everyone's going to work to do what? Get money so we can do what? Like eat food. Can we just get money? Like,
What next?
Out, it's like, and so like money was always like seemed to be the ticket to be living a good life, and then we always seemed to be in some way, shape, or form stressing about the quality of life, And I was like, oh, simple equation: more money, we live a better quality of life, So I guess that was, but it was real like, oh, I wanted to be this, wanted to do that, like that was all pie in the sky, like because I was a kid, it's like those sort of dreams. Still think about them in the same way that other kids would think about. Wanted to be a fireman or whatever it is they think about. I'm just like, oh, I want to be a rich guy. But it started getting like quite serious and started actually making steps at it when I was about 13.
Okay.
So when I was about 13, that's where I feel like I sort of had that transition of like, oh, I'm not a kid anymore. Like I'm a kid for sure, but I'm the youngest in my family. I'm the only one out of home. My family's like, my mum and dad are poor. I always wanted to give back to them because they adopted me when I was a baby. So I always wanted to give back to them. So I wanted to be successful in this really cool way when I was a kid. Then as I'm about 13, now it's like, all right, now I'm serious. And also if you're going to be successful, like people are living, they're sort of like, what's the word I'm looking for? They're sort of hoping for that too, we sort of need that too. There's no one going to save them, And I always wanted to give back to them because I was always aware of my situation was that, I was adopted as a heroin baby. My parents were heroin addicts. If not for living this quality of life or living with this family, I'll be living with probably a mum that was a heroin addict.
And so, just on that moment, just for people to understand, like, can you describe what you mean by heroin baby?
Heroin baby. So a heroin baby is like a baby that's born with heroin in their system. So it's like your parents are doing heroin while they're in the womb. Obviously, your mum's doing heroin while you're in the womb. And then when you're born,
Jesus Christ, man,
because heroin's such a heavy drug, you can't just take them straight off it. You got to wean them off it. So the baby's born, you got to give them fucking more heroin. Until they wean off it into a comfortable sort of state.
Wow.
And so yeah, I was a little heroin baby. I was deaf till I was like 2. I couldn't walk. I was like didn't form properly. Had like a bunch of plastic surgery and stuff. So like right against. That's why I'm always like, yeah, fuck. It is always just you. Like that was the life carved out and chosen for me. It's like everyone's like, how are you doing? It was always like, I guess early on. Because I understood it pretty early on. They'd be like, oh, it must be so hard being adopted. And actually, I remember having this challenge early on of like, yeah, believing it, because I'm a kid. I'm like, yeah, fuck, must be. And then sort of at some point, I just really realized, I'm like, how the fuck do they know? How the fuck would you know? Firstly, you're not adopted, number one. And number two, how the fuck would I know what you're feeling isn't shitter than what I'm feeling, right? So like, why the fuck would I got to believe?
Like they're trying to impart their belief on you.
Yeah, like,
hey, that's a bad thing. You're like, oh, is it?
And as I grew up more and more, I realized I'm like, oh, people are actually always looking for someone that's doing worse than them so they can fucking elevate and like whatever. That's power to themselves. But for me, it's been a superpower, right? It's like there's no one coming to save you. Actually, you've been against it the whole fucking time. Any form of success is always a good one when you're a fucking heroin baby. You know, you're like, good job, fucking you're here, mate. You know, but you've got like, you don't have to believe them narratives that people like impart on you. It doesn't have like, is it? I read a quote the other day. It's like either you can endure it or you can't, or something like along those lines, right? It's like, so either it's, can I endure this? Yes. So it's not a fucking issue. You know what I mean? Like, I'm adopted and it's always served me in some way, shape or form. There's challenges and you're sort of like, oh, you know, would be nice to, I guess, but it'd be nice to have like a Rolls Royce when you had never had one either, you know? So it's like, what's the difference? Like, I've always had my family, I've always had my parents and people that love me and cared about me. The only difference is that I've got this other narrative about how I was born, you know, and that sort of led me, and I've had, I guess, a different set of circumstances, but it's never served me to believe that victim statement or that victim story about like, it must be so hard to do this, blah, 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 blah. It's, even if just sheer of like what serves me better, believing that it's a superpower and it gives me all this independence and it gives me all this strength is just much more beneficial for me. So even if nothing else, I just believe that, but I actually believe it. Like, I actually believe that. I'm like, it is actually a superpower. A lot of people are like held back by their family roots and beliefs and what they inherit, and, you know, I'm this way because of my mum and fucking dad and blah, 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 you know. I just don't believe any of that shit. I think you've got enough, you can form everything out, anything out that you want yourself.
And you have a quote here that you love that kind of, I guess, talks to what you just shared with us, and that's, the same boiling water that softens the potato hardens the egg. It's not the circumstances you're in. Instead, it's about what you're made of.
That's right. That is my favorite quote. It's tattooed on my forehead. That's yeah, absolutely. It's exactly that. It's a tough quote. Same boiling water, literally the same circumstances that make something softer, make something else harder. You know, so you've got to make your decision about like, what are you? Like, you potato or an egg?
And you see that as a choice. Am I a potato or am I the egg?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's down to a choice. Yeah. So what do you believe? Like, what do you believe yourself to be?
So
both are true. Like, both are going to be true.
Yeah.
You believe yourself to be a potato, mate, you're it. Congratulations. You know?
Yeah. If you believe you're an egg, you're an egg.
Fucking oath. Good egg. Congratulations.
Yeah, a good hard egg.
Yeah.
And that's insane, man. Like, your story is crazy. Like, to have, you know, having come into the world with parents who are actively doing heroin while you're in the womb is a lot to think about. It's a lot to fathom. Being a parent myself, that's a lot. And then having to, I guess, as a baby, you're not really yet coherent. You're having to deal with this problem from your parents, essentially. And you said you were deaf for 2 years, and then it was difficult to learn how to walk.
Yeah, so because of the deaf, throws off your because when you can't hear, it throws off your equilibrium, so you can't stand up for quite some time. But my mum, she started reading to me like out loud for a little while. So once I could walk, I could read almost immediately.
Wow.
I read Lion King or something before I was 2. And then I, super smart, switched on. They got, like, when she started sending me to school, like, I wasn't engaged because it was all sort of boring shit and I was deaf. So I couldn't talk like this little sped, you know. And then they would be like,
yeah. And they thought you were a potato, but you're like, I'm a hard boiled
I'm an egg, brother. Yeah. Trust me. Yeah. And they'd send me home like, oh, he's learning disabled. And like, mate, he's not learning disabled. This kid read the Bible. She left a Bible in my dresser once, and I read the whole thing and come out asking questions. Like, what about this God dude? No, and so
what's the deal?
Yeah, it still makes sense. And so they were, so that was like a interesting dynamic. Because then I was like this boy genius for so long. By the time I was 6, I was like the family admin. They'd be like, Brad, how do you spell supercalifragilisticexpialidocious? And I'm like, I could probably still spell it, but yeah, they would. So that's what I mean. So that had that little validation. I wasn't aware of it at the time. Of like, oh, this victimhood shit, everything's terrible. As opposed, if I'm believing everyone, then oh no, actually superpower. Well, heroin babies are really smart apparently, and like all these things, and it's like, oh, they're all external.
We often hear this concept around people being a victim.
Yeah.
Like, what's your definition of what a victim really is? Someone who has a victim mindset, or they're living in victimhood, and how do you catch yourself, and how do you pull yourself out of it?
Yeah, believe in the bullshit excuses that are getting in your way. That's probably how I define like what a victim is. It's like accepting the reasons as to why you can't succeed. There's always reasons. There's always like a million reasons and valid options that don't give you what you want, that you fall short on. Like, and they're valid. 100%. We can all appreciate that. But you got to live with that. We pack up, and I'm like, great, you know, proud of this guy. I hope he does well. And I go back to my fucking life. I don't care about it. And you sit there in the fruition of not getting what you want, right? And so there's no power in it. And so I guess that's how I define it, is like believing the bullshit stories and excuses and valid maybe reasons as to why you can't get what you want. And how can you get out of that? It's like, well, you just got to make a decision. It's like, well, is it more important that I'm comfortable and I can let go of that and, I don't know, break whatever promises I've sort of made to myself? Or do I pick the difficulty that lies in the doing of the task, like just doing the things that maybe seem impossible, but fucking just do them anyway? Like at least do them all and fail then. You know what I mean? Do everything, take away all the excuses, and then fail. You go, I just tried everything, you know? If you can truly say that you've tried everything, then great. But I think a lot of people sort of pull up too soon. Go, yeah, but. So, yeah, but you fucking missed, no one else, you know what I mean? So it's like...
That's a good point, because a lot of people pump the brakes before they even try. And maybe they've had something in the past that's gone really badly or really poorly, and they're pumping the brakes. Like, I think the common one I see is like when people are like, yeah, but I can't because of X. And it's like, last time this happened, and then this person did this to me. And it's like, you're still attached to the past.
Yeah.
Right? Who's to say you can't change the narrative? Change the bullshit. If you're buying the bullshit and that's the reason why you can't succeed, change the bullshit.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, literally just change it. Redefine it. Because, and if there's not that, there's something else. There's another obstacle that takes the form of like, you know, overcome this and get what you want. Either you're going to make a decision that like, I'm going to overcome it, I'm going to do whatever I need to overcome it, or you're going to accept that you're not going to get what you want. Like you're going to have to accept something.
And my favorite one here is like when someone, you know, when you're challenging someone on something and they're like, yeah, but this, and then you're like, well, the remedy to that is this thing.
And they go, yeah, but
yeah, but also this. And then they hop to the next one, and then they keep hopping. And how do people, you know,
game of hurdle.
Yeah, how do you start to catch yourself in these? Because I think sometimes people aren't consciously like, yeah, I'm a victim. They're like, I'm not a victim. Like, you know, I'm doing my best.
I've got valid reasons.
You know, I got valid reasons, man.
Yeah. Well, I guess a good way to catch yourself. So I guess a little practice that I sort of do is I sort of think, it's like, well, is this going to kill me? Like, is it that bad? Like, and you sort of nut it all the way back down. It's like, how does this actually impact me? Like, what is the actual impact? It's like meditating on it, right? And sort of like, what is the actual impact that it's making? Or what is the actual hurdle? Or what is the actual thing? It's sort of like isolating it. It's like, what is it? And then where's the chat? Like, is it actually, am I willing to let this little problem, this little hurdle, be the thing that says, okay, you're not going to have this, which is on the line of it. You know, as an example, it might be, I've got all this work I need to do because I'm trying to pull together a big opportunity, like something that's working on right now. We've got a really big opportunity that we're sort of working on. I literally fucking don't know where we're finding the time, but there's just no time to do it. But I can either be like, yeah, that opportunity, it came and went. It was a really big one. Would have been, you know, massive for our whole business, but, you know, just couldn't find the time. And everyone's like, yeah, you must be so busy. Like, you got a business. And like, yeah, and everyone will be, you know, pity party and we'd fucking hug and everyone will be depressed together. But that doesn't serve anything. So I'm just like, all right, well, what the fuck do I need to do? It's like, here's the things, and they sort of seem unreasonable. But it's like, well, if either I do them or I miss the opportunity. So I need to figure out how to do them. It's like, well, okay, so I can put them in here. I can put some extra time here. I can put some extra time there. Might work, might not be enough time, but whatever, we try, we have a crack, you know? So like, I'm just not accepting the other route of like, yeah, but this, yeah, that's a sort of good thing. So I guess you got to always weigh it against your goal. So like, what's your big goal? And then, you know, obstacle of the day. Newsflash, there's going to be another one tomorrow, but it's like, fucking obstacle of the day. What's in my way? What is the actual thing, like isolating? What is the actual pain point, actual problem, actual issue? Because it's never as, once you articulate it, it's never like what you're Chinese whispering to yourself. It's always a small one or two little issues. And are you willing to let that go, or let that be the determining factor that doesn't let you get the goal? Because if you're not, then fucking do it. And if you are, then agree to disagree or agree to fail.
Yeah, and I think oftentimes people focus on the battles that they're in.
Yeah.
And then sometimes we need to like seriously zoom out and look at like the total war. And I think when I look at business, you know, war analogies are always a fun one because I like to read a lot of books on like, you know, the history of war and generals and stuff like that. But I think when you start to go, okay, well, in business or life, whatever the war is you're trying to win, like what is that outcome? And then track it back from there.
Exactly.
And then I think oftentimes when we talk to people in business, and I sit with people all the time doing strategic workshops, it's kind of terrifying how few business people have actualized goals that are like this is my goal, and then they can meticulously break it down. And people have this avoidance of, well, I don't want to be arrogant, or I don't want to be, it's almost like a fear of it not happening. So then they create this smoke screen of like, I don't want to look at it. It's not the priority right now. I'm just going to focus on the battle I'm in. And it's like, no, dude, like what's the outcome you're actually looking for? And it's actually a weird cathartic experience for people to go through this, because they're like, I've never been asked these questions. Do you have a series of questions that you ask yourself when you're looking at, well, how do I select that crazy, audacious goal, and how do I clarify it?
If I got anything I want, what would it be? Like, what is it? So what's the best, absolute best, like, outcome of whatever it might be? It might be sort of situational. So like, as an example, in business, it's like, what's the best, absolute best version of my business? What does that look like in the world or in Australia? And then what would need to happen for those things to occur, you know? Some very simple. It's maybe overwhelmingly simple, the questions I ask myself, to be honest, but it's literally like, what do I want? Like, in a best case scenario, what is it that I want? What are the steps that we need to do to overcome them? And then, I don't know, I just don't have that mechanism of like, oh, do we want to do them? Like, they just got to be done. Once you have that goal, like once you either agree that you're going to get the goal, or it's like, these are the things that need to be done. Can't resign. That's impossible. Can't resign to that, and that's like off the table. Either it's like a possibility or it's not.
And there's no silver bullet, right?
Yeah, there's no silver fucking bullet. No, literally, like even every day, like, 'cause people always like interested in like the story, resilience, how do you overcome and how do you do it? And it's like, well, every day, same as everyone. It's like you make a conscious decision to like do the winning, not the fucking losing, right? And it's just like, what do we got to do to get closer to our goal, to our aspiration, to delivering on whatever it is that we wanted to every day? And then that conscious effort is still in that little, like the opportunity presents itself. There's the victimhood route. There's the fuck it, go after it route. There's the don't do anything, which is also a decision not to do it route. And you got to make that decision, like pick your door every time. You know, you got to pick your door every single time. And I've just like trained it to know that every time the thing that I want is always on the other side of the get after it door. Even if it's not comfort, like it's always on the other side of the fuck it, we'll figure it out, or fuck it, we'll just keep moving down that direction, or fuck it, it's better than the other options. You know what I mean? Like, you just keep moving down the positive path. It's never easy. I guess it is sometimes easy.
I would agree with that, man. Like, there's a book up on the wall there called the 10X Rule.
Oh, yeah.
And the title of chapter 6 is "Don't Be a Little Bitch," which is my favorite chapter of any book I've ever read ever. And the audiobook is hilarious. And that chapter is about victimhood.
Yeah.
And the two doors you're talking about kicking in is like, at any point in business, you got two doors. One which is, I'm going to be a little bitch today.
Yep.
And the other one is, fuck it, let's get after it.
Yes, exactly.
And
Literally
which one you opens up to you?
That's why I love business, to be honest, because it's like raw.
It's black and white.
Yeah, it's fucking raw and it slaps you around. It's like boxing, but like bit worse. But yeah, it's honestly,
it's the bell doesn't
bell
finish
ring,
the
yeah,
match. It just
rounds,
keeps going.
At least in boxing, the rounds fucking end and you get to sit down. Like, it doesn't happen in business.
Because the weekend comes around, you're still running a business. And you talk about your admiration for Mike Tyson and the likes of David Goggins, and how have these individuals like inspired you? Because both of these guys are relentless at kicking in the fuck it, go after it door nonstop. Very much anti-victim mindset. Are you resonating with these two characters because you align with them with your same belief system, or do they help stoke your fire in some kind of way?
Nah, I resonate a lot with like that belief system of like, fuck it, like figure it out, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, let's just figure it straight out. Like, it is so binary, but it's uncomfortable, the amount of work that's generally required. Like, it is binary. It's like, this is, for you to get here, this is what's required. That's it. That is literally the fucking equation. It's like, you want to do that or not, you know? It's like, if you're like, okay, I don't know if I want to do the work. It was like, well, how bad do you want that thing then? As much as this list or less, you know? And that's what I love about, like, what I like about Dave Goggins' thing is like, it's like what he says, like, once you're at that point, like, you feel like you're quitting, you're only at 40%, which is sort of like proof to say that even, you got to believe in yourself. No one else is going to believe in you to the degree that you do. But even that full 100% that you believe in yourself, still only about fucking 40%. You still got much more in the tank, which sort of serves as more proof that you're even better than you think. You got even more tools than you think. If you can even see like a slither of the chance of how you could figure it out, you could probably do it 3 times, So don't be scared and back yourself a bit, That's what I like about those two characters, that they had no, as I guess I see a little bit of that in myself, is like, I had no external validation as to why I would be the person that I ended up being. But I knew it, and they fucking knew it, and you just got to figure out a way to prove that, or not like prove that, but you're sort of getting on your own path and doing it, you know? It's like David Goggins and Mike Tyson, they were like, you know, had terrible upbringings and then went on to be super successful people and all that sort of stuff in their own right. But that was because they got in their individual path of like breaking down their own like little beliefs. I guess with Mike, it was a bit different. He had a bunch of different people sort of helping him and things like that and sort of helping him realize his potential. But he wanted to be something other than what life was telling him. And then he just gritted that out. Like, he just done the fucking work. And the reason he become like a champion is not because of any some God-given talent. It's because he trained for 10 years plus doing the same thing and then went pro and obviously killed people, you know. And then like with David, slightly different. It was like an internal battle of overcoming and constantly proving to himself that he could do more and more as possible and stretching out like what's possible for himself so that he could align that on paths that would give him what he wants. And I guess that's it too. It's like you got all the tools in the shed to be whatever the fuck you want. You just got to align it to a path that's worth it for you, and yeah, you got all the juice.
And for your personal story, you know, you talk about Mike Tyson having a lot of external support, and then David having to go quite internal. And I think both of these individuals have, you know, like you said, come up with a troubled past and a troubled upbringing. Now, with your story, where do you feel like you draw your strength from? Like, were you deprived, in your opinion, of having external validation? Or, you know, were you deprived of anything in your childhood that you feel was the primary reason that you're now in the relentless pursuit in business and not wearing any of the victim mindset?
Don't think so. I think my mum and dad always done like the best that they could, you know, with what they had. Always would give me like everything that they possibly could. When we had money, like everything was fine. When we were poor, they'd still try and all that sort of stuff. But they just don't know what they don't know. Like, they're just blue collar workers, just hanging out, like just working and getting after it, sort of thing. And you know, I think what I got from my parents is like, you know, they would never let me feel any different about being adopted, which is cool, which is really cool. But that's what's the word I'm looking for? It's like it contradicts itself in a way. By being treated not different because you're adopted, you are being treated different because you're adopted. Like you're so special. I'm like, yeah. Why? Why? Yeah. No, but it's. I was not deprived of anything.
Did it ever play on your mind? Did it ever get in the way?
All the time. Yeah, all the time it would always play in your mind. Like until found like a home with it when in my teens and stuff. But until then, it was like rattling all the time. It'd always be. I remember beat the shit out of this kid once when I was in year 5. They used to say like your mum jokes all the time.
Yeah.
Your mum. You know, oh, your mum this, your mum that. And he said your mum joke to me, and I was like, I remember beating the fuck out of him, like crying, going like, yeah, I'm adopted. Anyway, so that was no. So I wasn't really deprived of anything. It wasn't like a tough upbringing in that sort of way. We just never had the resources that we need to live a decent fucking life once I was about 10, and that sort of was a problem that kept mounting on my. It was like they were getting defeated as I was getting older, and sort of I felt this inclination to become the leader of the family and help.
Because I understand they had some health issues and you guys were in hospital a lot.
Yeah, they've got like a lot of health issues now. Like today, and this is, I've been able to do it. Like I've bought them a house. They live out of house commission. They live like, 20 meters from the water and stuff. They live a nice quality life now. And that's because of all the property. But like I've been able to give back to them, and it's literally what I always wanted. But that's
incredible, man, to be able to buy your parents a house.
Yeah, I'm happy with it.
And having had grown up in the housing commission, essentially.
Yeah, I remember getting out of jail and sort of coming home and going back to the house and being like, we're not fucking doing this anymore. And then I moved out for like 6 months, and then a year later, I bought him a house, and I was like, let's go, use her out.
Yeah.
And moved them to
What was that feeling like?
It was good. Well, interesting one. Actually, I can't remember what I was talking about this. So the feeling was great, and the feeling is like better now. But at the time, and this is where at the time actually me and we were fighting and arguing. Like the relationship was actually at its worst, and it was weird. Like it was a weird sort of moment. So which is always a good. This is actually a good thing to talk about. So it was sort of bittersweet at the time of buying it. So I didn't get this payoff like that you'd hoping for. Like bought the house, fucking parents moved into it.
Yeah, you have this picture in your mind of this beautiful.
This is all going to happen,
family
right?
moment. Yeah,
this is a great, fucking amazing learning experience for me, because what happened was we were having like all these personal issues about some other shit, like basically, and then it had dissolved at a terrible time when I'm trying to buy him this house. Full fruition of like my whole life goal and all that sort of stuff.
Were they aware of it when you were doing this?
Yeah, it was like there's just this little dynamic between me and my mum, but it's like, families fight, and it just was a terrible timing of the fight, basically. And I'm like, feeling ripped off because of this big thing that I was working for and blah, blah, blah. But it made me sort of reflect inwards and be like, yeah, and sort of, it's just a further iteration of like the victimhood thing, because what was I hoping for is what I asked, the question asked to myself. Like, what was I hoping for? Of course, probably a better reaction, but what reaction then? If I'm asking for a reaction, what reaction am I asking for? And I couldn't really articulate it. It's like, but better, And there's always going to be that. You always want something to be better or not worse or whatever else. But at the end of the day, that's their experience. I bought the property because of what I wanted to experience for the people that adopted me. It's all a selfish experience, as much as people don't want to appreciate it. Like when you do shit for others, it's a fucking selfish experience. You're doing it for the reasons that you're getting out of it. As much as that might be tied to someone else, it's what you're getting out of it. So I had to sort of look in and be like, well, what good does this do for me? Like, what is it? And it's like, well, I've done all the good things. Like, what did I miss out on? It's like, reaction. It's like, well, who really misses out? Is it me or is it them? It's fucking them, So I'm like, sucks, but we done the good thing. And over time, like a couple of days later, it was completely fine. And it was a figment. I'm pretty sure it was just there as a lesson to be like, whatever it is, make sure that it's all internally motivated, not externally for someone to have some sort of reaction so you can get some sort of external validation or someone feels some sort of fucking certain way. What are you hoping to get out of it? And make sure you get what you came for, and you'll be fine.
And what was their reaction when you were doing this?
They love it. They're fucking like, they tell me every day now. They're like, they're still so wrapped about it. It's just that we were arguing at the time.
Yeah. You're doing this beautiful thing, just a bit of drama, and over time, what was the main lesson that you've taken from that? Do you think?
From the little experience, or for the buying of the house?
The experience and the buying the house and how they reacted.
Yeah, well, just pretty much that, right? It's like you do it. You got to do things from a place of like, what is your motivation? Like, what are you trying to do? What are you hoping to get out of it? Like, what's your purpose of doing this? Right? Because a lot of the time, and I think there's an element of that, me buying the house, that was a little bit of that, probably early on, a bit of that validation of like, I'm good enough to blah, 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 like, or whatever, So just make sure whatever it is that you're aiming for is not based in validation. It's actually based in whatever it is that you want out of life and what you want, not what you're hoping or someone's going to think of you or anything like that. So sort of just like make sure you keep your eye on the ball, which is you.
That's powerful, man.
I bought my parents a house. Absolutely.
That's badass. That's one of the coolest things I've heard.
I was adopted though. You know what I mean? And so it's like, I've got parents, and this is sort of, I'm like, the reality is someone else adopted me. I would have been probably trying to buy them a fucking house too. You know what I mean? Like, it's the reality of the situation. I wanted to do it because I wanted to be adopted kid that bought his adopted parents a fucking house. That's it. Not because of like Joe and Les, independent of me being adopted, are going to get a house somewhere down the line. Like, it's a tied to my experience, And so you got to take center stage sometimes.
It's a very beautiful thing, and you did it within a year. So explain that to me. So you were in jail for, I understand, for a year. And then a year outside of jail, you end up buying your parents a house.
Yeah, bro.
Take me. So you were crushing it in sales, then you ended up in jail for a year, and then you get out. Like, you just go straight back into it. Like, how did you get into such
2 days?
2 days outside of jail.
I was back to work.
Back at the same job?
Same job.
And take me through that year. Like, what were you doing that year? What were you spending your time on? Like, were you obsessing and just working relentlessly? What were you doing?
I was a fucking madman. I was like, I should have brought the books. I got them in my office. So like, there's 2 books. So one was like I used to write the same goals every day and just visualize them, like same shit every day. Just think about them.
What kind of stuff would you write down?
Buy mum a house. Have like 100 grand in the bank. Fucking like all these little physical goals, That was like manifesting.
And you're writing them every day?
Yeah, every day. Yep.
Like in the morning, at night, didn't really matter?
Nothing else to do. So I was going to put the context over it. So they let you out at 9:30 and lock you back in at 3:30.
I see.
So you fucking, what are we going to do? You gotta read 200 pages a day. And I'm like, all right, what now? Now 6 o'clock news. Like, you got a whole process. You got a whole day routine, like within your bathroom. Like, put it that way,
So what was your daily routine for this year?
I would wake up. Okay, so I wake up. So in Maxo, then minimum was different because you get out at 6 and lock back in at 6. In Maxo, it's 9 to 3, so you got much more time in your cell. So I'd wake up at like 6. I'd write some goals. Like, I'd write my little things in my book, do a little bit of visualizing, sit there and think for a bit, and get that. I still do that today, sort of get like my sort of soul and spirit sort of aligned and intent sort of aligned and pointy. Then once I get there, then we start reading or something. Like I've got to kill time now because I've got to wait to get out. So start reading, do a little bit of that, do some push-ups, like just whatever, sort of waiting for them to open the door. Then once they open the doors, then I'll go and train straight away. So go to the chin-up bar, do some chins, do some dips. So you just would do like chins to failure, like 20 or so, then dips 20 or so, and then do a lap and come back and then do it again. And you just would do that for 10, 15, 20 laps or something. And then I'll play some chess. By that time, it'd be lunch, have a fucking carrot sandwich or some bullshit. And then, that was shocking. And
carrot sandwich.
Carrot sandwich, they were on a budget. Yeah, dogs. And then, fuck. Yeah, so anyway, I did. This is the first jail I went to. So I thought, this is what we eat. Went to other jails. These guys are getting chicken wings. Like, I'm like, bro, what the fuck is this? Slave camp? Anyway, so that was bullshit. But yeah, and then I'd do like some more training, do some more chess, whatever, and then we get locked back in. Once I get locked back in, then I'd read 100 pages or more or something, write my goals again, that'd be like a movie on go. I'll watch a movie on go, and I'll fucking go to sleep.
Yeah.
Rinse and repeat. That's it. Or I jump on the phone or something like that.
When you, I guess, go through that for a year, whether you're eating carrot sandwiches or chicken wings, hopefully in most cases, you got more chicken wings than carrot sandwiches. It sounds quite monotonous. It sounds like Groundhog Day. Like, do you think that strengthened you in some kind of way? Was it a battle to try to stay positive?
Some days are harder than others, for sure. But you got to remember that, like, it's like boxing, It's like all those quotes that you hear about, and then you get to sort of live them, right? And it's like, this too shall pass. It's going to pass. I'm not going to be here forever. Like, I'm going to be out one day. I remember telling the guard this one day because he wouldn't give me a dinner plate. And I said, I'm not going to be in here forever, cunt.
Yeah.
Gave me the plate. No, but there's, 100%. Like, you're not going to be in here forever. This is just a blip in your existence. Even still, I'm like, I knew it was going to be a great story.
Turn it into a positive, right?
I knew it was going to be a good yarn, like 100%. Like, it's fine. It's all well and good. Obviously, it's not. Like, at the time, my dad, I thought he was going to die while I was in jail. He'd been given 6 months to live. I got 12-month sentence. It's not mathing, So I'm just like, fuck. So every day there was a bit of that anxiety. So get out after I train, I'd be on the phone. Hey, he's gone, blah, blah. There'd be that anxiety of like, fuck, did he pass away? Every day. So that made things much more intense. But yeah, it just was that, It's like what can you control? Well, I could try to break out. It's not going to go well. Okay, can't control that. I'm in jail until this predetermined date. So can control that. I'm locked into something that's pretty much my bathroom, right? So can't control that. I'm fucking getting in here every day. What can I do about it? What are the things that I can like impart some benefit on? Like what can I make? What can I grow and strengthen and empower? I can train my body. I can train my mind. I can train my patience. So that's what I did. I just would read like a fucking machine. Like I read like 22 books or something. I trained like literally I would, one of the goals that I had in there was that I was going to be a world champion. Right? I was going to be a world champion boxer. Now, I was either going to be a world champion or it was because like it was just the vehicle that was going to get me through this. Doesn't matter. Both of them served me. When I got out, I was actually fit as shit. I could have gone on and fought, but I had more business opportunities, and I didn't want to take the risk for my family on boxing because boxing doesn't fucking pay shit.
So like, take me through those first 2 days. What was it like, being in this box essentially in your bathroom, in this rhythm, in this process to go, okay, now I'm out back in the world. A lot of people struggle with that transition from those two worlds.
I won't tell you about the first day, but I'll tell you about the second day. No, but yeah, it was good. First thing to get out is like eat a good steak and shit. But then after that, like, oh, that's right. No, so because I was like just constantly going over like the goals and trying to bring about like what can I control? So I could train my mind, my goals, and I could manifest and bring things closer to me. And as I said, so what can I do there? So every day doing that. Then when I got out, it was just like, all right, time to fucking do all the things I've been writing about. Let's go and back to work. It just all literally I moved mountains in there with my mind because when I got out, I've like created all these fucking opportunities for myself. When I got out, I had clients actually to which I would make over 100 grand within the next few weeks of doing deals. So bring the 100 grand straight to me. I had this opportunity. So the licensee of my old business, she was so the licensee of the old business and the old business owner, he started ripping off clients. There was like a mutiny going on exactly as I got out, and we basically went from there and started another business. That was where I cut my teeth in business and sort of understood. It was not a good business deal for me, but it was a good business experience to understand how to run one and all that sort of stuff. And that's where I got.
So you went into business in that first year?
Pretty much straight away. I went like first few days back, jumping on the phones. The next 2 weeks was like a reshuffle, rebrand. And then I started back again working up. So phones, then back on sales, then back into property acquisitions and then running the teams and off we go.
Yeah. And how long were you doing that for and until what you're doing now?
It was like 3 years doing that. It was like quite 2 years, 3 years. It was like quite intense doing that. It was like I thought it was my business, and so I was like treating it like my business. And then at the end of that, so that dissolved, went extremely pear shaped. That is what it is. And then I got into, how I came into this was that at the end of that relationship, I went to a Mark Brewer seminar. At the seminar, I came up with Indigenous Wealth idea, and I was like, Aboriginal finance, like there's a massive need for it. I could sort of see the gap. So I had this like epiphany while I was sitting there and just wrote all this shit. I'm like, yep. Left there. The business relationship dissolved. I started working on this idea because I'm like, fuck, what am I going to do? I don't want to go work for someone else. Because that was pretty much the rhetoric. Because like when I got out, I started this business with her. I thought it was like this business that I was involved in. She's like, no, it's not your business. I'm like, well, I thought that's what I wanted to do when I get out. Don't want to fucking go work somewhere. So anyway, all good. I'll start my own thing. What can I do? Sort of thinking about my niche. Went to this seminar, had that idea. This sort of dissolves. I went and worked at a company called Link Up New South Wales, which connects stolen generation with their family. It's a less important part of it, but it's just, I guess, while I was building Indigenous Wealth, I wanted to sort of give back because my dad just met his family for the first time. And anyway, so I had this time and sort of done that. I started working on Indigenous Wealth. That started working really well. Then a few years down, 1 year down the line, 2 years down the line, I've shedded all my friends because now I'm like, in business, people I'm speaking a different language at this point to them.
It's like Klingon almost.
Good on you, just having a business. I'm like, mate, fucking tax, like,
Yeah, tax is a bitch, man.
Real issues, like don't want to hear about it. And so then seeing a write-up on Cub through the AFR, and then because I seen Mark had invested in it or whatever, and went to Cub, and the rest is history. Became a member of Cub and fucking rolled on, had a couple of events and whatever else. So I started off, when I started Indigenous Wealth, it was off the back of a not so good business relationship sort of idea. Once I started working on it, I was like, it's a bit of a concept. Like there's no Aboriginal property investors, or not many Aboriginal property investors in Australia. All the data said like less than 100, which was weird. So I was like, there's a massive need for it, but there's also no proof of it. So I need to figure out how to do this. So I went in and started doing it. I just got as many clients as I could and done them for free. I don't know if you ever tried to sell anything for free.
It's brutal. Yeah.
It's fucking hard, right?
It sucks, man, because it's like,
they're like,
people are
what's the
skeptical.
catch?
They're like,
I'm like,
what's the catch? What are you trying to do with this?
The catch is I'm undervaluing myself so I can figure out a business, mate. That's the catch, That was tough.
Why were you doing it for free?
Because I need to see if it worked.
Okay, so I understand this, that like your company's called Indigenous Wealth.
Yes.
And the mission is to make 100+ Aboriginal millionaires by 2025.
Correct.
Yeah. And when you're going through this and you're trying to pitch it, like, are you trying to pitch to Aboriginal clients?
Yeah. So what I want to do is like take Aboriginal individuals and turn them into successful property investors, right? Because there's not much generational wealth in Australia. And in Australia, your wealth is tied almost directly to your property portfolio. You got property, you're probably wealthy, and vice versa. And so I just think we need to own more property. Pretty simple as that. And so a lot of our issues come from the financial disparity or problem or shortfall that we have. And so by creating economic independence, I believe that we take all that power back and we can solve our own problems. Similar to how I have solved my own fucking issues,
Yeah. And for those listening, can you just, I guess, shine a light on exactly that disparagement in our local community here in Australia?
The gap?
Yeah, the gap, because we have a lot of international listeners and some of them might be just trying to connect some dots here.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I guess Aboriginal, like First Nations people in Australia, due to like a lot of different things without of our control, there's a gap in terms of like wealth and financial opportunity for Aboriginal people in the rest of Australia. So not only a gap in like the services that are available, but the literal amounts. Like there's Aboriginal people are generally much less wealthy, much like a lot of Indigenous communities around the world. But I feel like there's a bit of a shift happening. While the colonies of the day and all that sort of stuff, it's very different now. People are sort of aware what's happened and where the shortcomings.
Because in our history in Australia here, there's a lot of colonization. A lot of horrible things were taking place.
Exactly. Like my dad's stolen generation, I was like the soft version of stolen. They were stealing babies until the 60s.
Yeah. And can you just define the stolen generation as well?
Stolen generation is basically if you're an Aboriginal kid, the government had a policy that they would come and remove you from your family and put you with a white family as a way of getting rid of the Aboriginal race. Right, that obviously didn't work. We've survived. We're here now, and Indigenous Wealth like literally just serves as like a new age tool to restore prosperity, thriving, positivity, economic, just abundance in general back to Aboriginal people, further to the degrees that it sort of once was. Right, so we're in a different world now to the one sort of before it was colonised. There's more opportunity now for our people than there sort of ever has been prior to colonisation or post-colonisation. Sorry. And so now it's up to us to take that opportunity and run with it. Like the opportunities that I have very different to my dad, and opportunities that he had very different to his dad. And I've got the best of all of us. And so it's up to me to take us on to the next path.
And what have been the biggest challenges when you're selling your services for free? What did you identify, and what were the common occurrences?
Well, exactly that. What's the catch? Why is it? Because on average, our clients make between 150 and 180 grand are the two numbers that we've used to be 180. Now I think it's like 150 in the first 12 months of owning a property with us. So it makes a lot of money. And as you go through that, and they can see that, and they're like, and you're not charging me, you're gonna make me 150 grand? Don't think so.
Like, what a nice guy.
Yeah, something wrong with this dude. Yeah. So that was like a lot of that is like too good to be true sort of element was like the biggest one. And that's really it. But the other issues are like the ones that we typically face in general, but it's within our people. And it's one of belief. It's like believing that all this monetary success can be yours too. Like you could be in the way of it. Like a lot of people believe that making money and all this sort of stuff is for rich people. Like there's opposite. Rich people are rich because they do these activities. They buy properties and they invest in things. And so that's what we want to bring to Aboriginal culture, that there's no shame in being successful. It's actually something that was imparted on you so that you would happily accept your position of whatever it is that they wanted you to be. Whereas now, like, I want my kids driving around G-Wagons on their Ps.
That's amazing.
Little shits,
Little shits.
But like, why not? Like, how come those things are sort of reserved for some people and not for others? I think that's bullshit. If you have like some sort of idea in your mind, and if you can figure out the means to get it, power to you. And so that's what Indigenous Wealth is, like to bring those services for Aboriginal people and have them run by Aboriginal people.
And how does it feel, I guess, to be in service of the Indigenous community and to actually see these guys out there driving G-Wagons, building business, building property portfolios? Like what kind of fulfillment?
The fucking best. Yeah. So like helping, because seeing some of our clients that come in, give Sharon Turvey a shout out right now. So she, for example, when I sat with her, she was like, she had no belief that she could own more than one property. She got 3 properties now, and she's like always calling me about wanting to start a business and do all sorts of things. Got a whole family investing. Like in 5 years, I'll be one of the wealthiest Aboriginal families, fucking maybe in Australia, and that's like because I was able to help her switch her belief to one that she actually deeply believed, but had all these maybe valid reasons and things that sort of popped up and that she sort of tacked on and stopped her from realising that full potential. And that's where I think that's the bigger work that we do, is like helping them crack and change their beliefs into ones that they actually want, and remove any bullshit excuses as to why they can't achieve them.
And what are those steps that someone needs to, I guess, be walked through in order to start to shift their perspective?
Well, if you could have anything you wanted, right, it's like, what would that actually be? Sometimes it's like carrot and the stick, So it's like, well, what would you really want if you could have anything that you wanted? And some people don't really respond to that. And it's like, okay, well, who do you serve to benefit as a result of you being successful? Like who relies on you? Your kids, your family, blah, blah, whatever, And so if you could give to them in the best sort of way, what would that sort of look like? And it's really just about shaping like a vision of like what would your ideal best case scenario be. and then why is it that we can't achieve that really? Like, so with properties, quite simple, right? It's just about like building reverse engineering a portfolio to the degree that gives you the quality of life that allow you to live it on your own terms. Pretty simple. Like if I can unpack, for example, like who do you serve the benefit? Where do you want to live? What sort of all these things you want to do? What does that cost? And then what would that look like in terms of a property portfolio? And then how long is that going to take?
Because
we've got a plan, right?
Because I can imagine when you start talking about like people and their goals for themselves, oftentimes they're not massive. And then you talk about, hey, you've got kids, right? You got family, you got friends, loved ones that are looking to you potentially, to help lead your local community.
Yeah.
Is there are there things that you go to really help open people's minds? Because oftentimes when we're working with people in business, it's quite a difficult process to get them to start opening their minds and stretching themselves without feeling weird about it into their goals.
Yeah, honestly, this is where like I feel like an obligation to share my story and stuff like that much more. So to give them a bit more of like an example of what I guess what's a little bit possible. For me, it's I'm not driving around in Rolls Royces or anything like that, but there's no issues in terms of money in my life or for anyone in it, And so that's what that means for me. It's like we've been able to come from this impoverished position and reach this this part where we can eat and do like we can live however we want across. I've got like 12 nephews and nieces. They whatever everyone needs at any time, everyone's fine. And there's much more levels to that as well. But like letting your imagination, like you're a kid, everyone's a kid sometime. Yeah. At some point, it's like what is it that you want out of your life? Like if you got anything, what would it that you and sort of just. I guess the things that I go to is firstly like building a relationship with the client. You got to build that relationship and really dissolve it down. Because first time you speak with someone's like, oh, what's your goal? And they're like, yeah, I want to buy an investment property. Like, Martin Luther King here, very inspiring. Wants to get an investment property, not doing anything for anyone. Like, what is that meant to do for you? It's like, what do we hope to do for that? So less around like what's the goal itself, but what's the influence that you hope that to have on your life or the people that you hope to influence, right? And then from there, sort of nutting that back into like what's important, and then how can we use tangibles to get those things. For example, a lot of clients are like, I've spent time with my kids, culture, create generational wealth, give my kids an opportunity that I never had, not have to work. Nice and simple one. But those things, rather than it's like this amount of this amount of that, this amount of that, that's our job. It's like what's the soft things that are really important to you and like really, I guess, rejuvenate your soul. Like what makes you tick as a person. And then what would we need in terms of money for you to do that all the time?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a bit of a poke and prying sort of exercise, but I usually go to those two things. Either it's like the carrot, it's like, what would you have? What could think? Okay. It's like, all right, now that's not a reality. What's the baseline that you're happy with? And if you don't get that, who suffers?
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So who around you suffers? And I often think about how like, I have a belief, and I think it's important that when you're looking at generating wealth, is it from a place of selfishness or is it from a place of giving to others? And if your aspiration is to generate wealth in order to, I guess, benefit yourself and to comfort yourself, that's one thing. But if you're trying to generate wealth in order to impact your children's lives, impact your partner's life, impact your mother, in your case, your father, those that love you, when you're generating wealth, not just for yourself, but for others, it feels different. And taking the selfishness away can actually make it feel a lot more worthwhile. Because if you're just doing it for you, you'll do so much. But if other people are depending on you, your goals get way more important.
Got to be bigger than you. It's got to be bigger than you. And even that's. Well, I think we were talking about this before. It's like same as like me. It's like it needs to be like a certain level of chaotic before I'm inspired into any sort of action. Same sort of thing. If it's just me that it serves to benefit, I'm like, we'll get to it. It's fine. I'm sweet.
Like I'm good right now.
Yeah.
I don't need to push that hard.
Yeah. Put me in the bathroom again for a while, mate. It'll be fine. Is it? But like
give me some carrot sandwiches.
Yeah. There's some sandwiches, mate. If you got if you have.
You still eat carrots?
Yeah, sometimes.
Okay, cool.
Not on sandwiches with hummus at all. It was the weirdest fucking lunch. They would put,
that's a strange sandwich,
they would get
man.
like, julienne carrots. So like the little matchstick fucking, just obviously they've worked hard in the kitchen around there.
Working hard on those carrots, yeah.
Yeah. Like, come on, they got to be nice and on a piece of white stale bread. But anyway, so they're like carrots and like beetroot, not juicy, just so dry, just like. with
Just
hummus.
dry and dry with the hummus.
Congratulations. Yeah, see you later. That was it. Yeah, but you toast them, they were all right. Anyway, so yeah.
Okay, good tip. If anyone's listening and they're
you're wondering.
inside, yeah,
Yeah.
toast that thing. Now, I understand with one of the coolest things I think about what you're doing is that your business is 100% owned and operated by the Indigenous community.
Yeah. Well, I think we're like 70% operated now. We got 2 white people.
Okay, cool. And was that a difficult decision, or was like?
No, it made sense.
yeah.
Like, it's like I feel like it just has to happen, right? So it's just how it needs to be it's like a further iteration of the belief mechanism.
Yeah.
Sort of just breaks it in half. It's like, because even sometimes Aboriginal people believe this, we're less than bullshit. So once I make Indigenous
What do you
Wealth-
mean by that? Can you please define that?
It's like sometimes Aboriginal people aren't as capable or whatever because we don't have so much experience, or we need some, like in Aboriginal businesses you very rarely will see it 100% Aboriginal owned and operated or anything like that, because there's this belief of you need the external support or somewhere else. And there's so many Aboriginal businesses, fucking call it out right now, they're like, fuck the government, independence and but then get government funded, which is just dumb. Like, it just makes no sense. How could you, the same government that we're hoping to like regain control from, we need as a matter of survival. It doesn't make any sense. So for me, like, Indigenous Wealth is like, I'm gonna make this into a fucking, not only an actual genuine business, but the best fucking business in Australia, because I feel like that's what it needs to be, and the biggest and the most successful. And it's gonna be run by all Aboriginal people, because that's just proof that it can be done. Like, we're not capable.
So you guys aren't taking government funding?
Nah, fucking not a chance. Never. The people that we serve to help are not the government, they're Aboriginal people, right? And so I can't have an external party comment on that or judge on that. Firstly, like, it's the market dictates the price. Like, if we're providing a good service and we're self-sufficient and helping Aboriginal people, we're going to be in business. And if we're not going to fucking be in business. It's pretty simple as that. Same as every other business has got to face the same maker.
So you're looking at this as like, I want to play by the same rules. I want this to be as legitimate as possible.
Yeah.
I don't want to be perceived in any way, shape, or form as having
some sort of help.
some kind of handicap or help.
Nothing.
You're like, this is legit. We built this thing. Our community did this.
Bootstrapped it, yeah.
And
exactly.
they're using that as proof that, like, hey, anyone can do this.
Exactly. So number one, to have a bulletproof business. Number two, to serve as a shining example to all of Aboriginal people across the next fucking 100 years that Indigenous Wealth is here. That's what's possible for Aboriginal people. Like, we become my vision is that, so you can think of Indigenous Wealth like this, sort of like your PwC and Deloitte and Commonwealth Bank and Westpac and whatever, but for Aboriginal people. That's what Indigenous Wealth is. Big business, top bottom for Aboriginal people. And so once we're there in every state, got our buildings, blah, 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 like, Aboriginal people are going to be able to look at that like with pride and be like, that's probably one of the biggest businesses in Australia, and it's all fucking blackfellas actually made from a blackfella that went to jail, and that's the point. To use it as a shining beacon, like, all the time. So not only like be doing it, like, you rock up, knock on the door, people are going to make money, but you can look at it and be like, that's inspiring,
That's incredible, man. I think it's remarkable what you're doing here. And I like that, you're doing it with this grit, determination, consistent effort, and you've done it from essentially rags, man. Like, you've really crafted this thing and molded it into your vision.
Thanks, bro.
And to build intergenerational wealth, what are some things that people can take here as advice? So if someone listening to this is like, okay, I want to have intergenerational wealth. Let's just say the listener's like, I've grown up poor. I don't have access to Mark Burris and all these people. Like, where do I start? Where do I put my energy? Where do I put my time?
Learning, right? So day one for me, I would say this, joke about this with my teams. Like, day one for me was Google. I used to be like, what do rich cunts do? That's it. What do rich people do? Sorry,
Yeah.
I'd be like, what do rich people do? And it would be like property, and so I would. That's it. That's how you sort of learn.
So like, rich people have property. How do I get property?
Okay, so I was like, all right, revolutionary. Okay, property. Now what? What do they? How to get a property? Is it like?
Yeah.
So
Well, how do you go from scratch to property?
yeah, well, yeah, 100%.
Right? I don't own any property yet. That's probably the one industry I haven't really delved into educationally.
Gotcha.
Like, I'm pretty naive to this. So, like, take me through the process. Like, what's the first few steps?
Absolutely. All right. So understanding, like, firstly, well, you'll get there later, right? First thing is, like, you just save. You need get a bit of capital, get some capital in the market. Someone like yourself, it's just like, you need to hurry up and do that. Like, there's enough capital, you should be right to do it.
If someone doesn't have capital, what should they do?
Don't have capital, then want to get really pointy with it. So just think about, like, firstly, we'll learn about property and all the benefits of it, and then what do you hope that serves you as? Like it could be like passive income, could be just general wealth. The reason for that is because it's going to walk you down two different trajectories.
What are those two different trajectories?
So like growth path, like basically building wealth for the sake of having wealth later on down the track, so less important to bring fruition now. Whereas if we're looking at passive income, then by some intelligent maneuvering, you could be there in a few years, And so I guess just being able to articulate what you hope to get as a benefit of that, Someone that wants some passive income now, these sort of properties that are going to give you long-term growth, they're going to be
right. So one is going to put some cash in the bank steadily and replace your income.
Yeah.
The other one is like, we're going to compound and build wealth.
Very generalized, but yeah, in a general
Then
sense.
take me down the wealth path. Like, if someone's starting with scratch and they're working an everyday job.
Well, they're both, step one's going to look the same for both of them, but over time it's like what you buy and why you buy it is what will sort of change. But more importantly is like just starting with an end in mind. So it's like, what is the goal that you hope to get out of property? Because it's like another vehicle. It opens up as another avenue of your life. That's the thing. It's like it sort of sits in the background on autopilot that's going to bring these economic goals closer to you. You're still going to have to do all your shit in your daily life and all these other sort of things. But this sort of just brings these away. So I guess your first step.
If I gave you a goal I wrote down recently, I wrote down I want to own 70 apartment buildings.
Oh, like deadly. All right, sweet. And where are we starting from? So if you had to say we start off with like $1 million, like what do we know about properties? That it's going to double every sort of 10 years. So you can sort of bank on whatever you own, growing at roughly 10% a year. So we're making like $100,000 a year. So the trick is going to be, firstly, it depends on what your risk profile is. If you've got heaps of extra cash, then we just focus on getting shit that grows at the highest rate, irrespective of the cash flow. That sort of depends on how deep.
Do I have to build some kind of relationship with the bank to get my first property? Like,
you need a team. You need to have a good team around you. So first step is like end in mind. Second step is get the capital, so save a bit of cash. Third step is get a good team, right? So get a good team, people that you can trust that have done or gone the route before. Like for example, I've got about $280 odd million worth of real estate transactions under my belt that I've been involved in. And so that experience is something that a lot of people get to leverage off and really what they pay a lot for.
So don't go solo, try to get around others that have done it before.
Yeah, before you got someone else, and even if it's for sheer education, pay someone and steal everything off them. It's great. That's what, yeah.
Who's some people that you've been able to do that with?
What's that?
Who's some people you've been able to, I guess, seek for mentorship? And I have this...
mentors, yeah.
Yeah, I have an analogy like what I call an invisible mentor.
Gotcha.
So I remember I used to, when I would work sales jobs, I would do like a daily commute for like an hour. And on that commute, I would play an audiobook. And I used to imagine like the person was sitting next to me in the car while I was driving and they were talking directly to me. It's just a weird mental thing I used to do. Because I think you can passively listen to audiobooks and go, yeah, I know this. Yeah. But then if you're like, I'm in a conversation with this person and they're talking to me about my problem, it changes how you receive the information. But I remember I used to do this again and again and again. But like for you, like how have you collected mentors over the years?
Same, to be honest, that's a good way to articulate it. But I would probably say would do similarly the same thing, but through books early on when I had no fucking mentors. And then over time, I would ask for them. People always say your mentor should find you. I was like, fuck that, I'm asking. So,
I'm not going to wait. I'm going to kick the door in.
Yeah. Like, hey, bro. So one of my best mates now, he was my first mentor because he was like the GM of my business, of the business that we were in. And he served as a mentor. But now these days, so still him. So Matt Wilson, runs WT Capital, does really well. Daniel, I sort of lean on a lot. Mark, when he doesn't have too much time, but he's like more of an invisible mentor as well. Just emulate what he does, speak to him when I get the chance to. But one of the main one or the pillar of my mentorship is Adrian Hondros. He's a weapon. But mentors is it's fucking invaluable. You need them. Like just get people. And this is what I've always done is like you don't need your mentor to be everything all at once. It's like what's the one thing that they do?
Because a lot of people do that, right? They try to find out one person who can solve everything.
They don't exist. Yeah, they don't.
That's
exist.
nuts to me because I always at any given time I have like 3 or 4. I'm like,
exactly.
I got this guy for finance. I got this guy for vision casting and prepping and planning. I get this guy for cultural development. Like bring in specialists.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like even my uncle, he's like, he's fucking hopeless in just about everything else. But he's like cultural mentor. Yeah. You might know. He went viral. He was like the guy that done the Welcome to Country with the beard.
I don't know if I've seen that. You'll have to send it to me.
It's my uncle Brendan. He's a classic. But yeah, no, 100%. Like sort of picking them and not being, not asking for too much. It's like, what's the one value that this person does exorbitantly better than everyone else, and get that guidance off them and lean on for that. like same as with me. You know, if you come to me for relationship advice, mate, you're gonna get yourself in hot water, right? But anything else, you give me fine. You know, like basically business or mindset. You know, that's what you're gonna be good for. But that's all I'm good for.
Yeah.
You know, and so like pick your mentors and where you hope for them to get the value. And I think I've really crafted a really good little crew.
If you were to recall on like any personal conversations that you've had with a particular mentor, like what were some of the most, maybe one or two most pivotal moments, and what did you do with that information?
Good one for everyone listening. I get my ass handed to me all the time, like all the time. So they're happening all the time. What's the recent one? Yeah, I got fucking roasted. Basically, just being like trying to do too much at once. You know, like trying to think is not like So something is a really good one. So it sort of discounts your true value when you allow yourself to do all these things at once, right? Because while you get away with it, because you're capable and you can spin a lot of plates and you're very fancy, good job. If you just done one thing, you would do them 100 times better than anyone else who'd done it.
Right, it would compound.
It would compound. Right?
Rather than spreading yourself too thin.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. And so just like, I think two of them told me at the same time, basically just like, fucking, mate, do one thing, do it well, and get it on, then get it on with the next one. But if you just focus intently on that, and even at the dismay of everything else, like if everything else has to drop, what's the one thing that you keep? Make your decisions like that and do them, and that's been working.
And what's been that for you? Like, what's been that one true thing that you're really excellent at that you should never take your head off?
I guess it's less about that, but with the business, right, is that there's so much opportunity and so many things that we want to do. And they all rear their head. And as we get further and further along business, the opportunities like rear their head. They start coming at you, coming towards you. And so being able to sort of distill that down into like, well, what's the core one thing that we need to be doing? And then also like, what's the core amount that it needs to be done? Like, for example, our core driver of the business, like we do sales, we do property transactions, all that sort of stuff. We want to be getting into like finance, and we've dabbled in that, didn't really work too much, but we'll get back around to it. Accounting, we've got a bunch of other things as well, right? And so they all pop up at interesting times, like sometimes all at once and whatever. I'm like, oh yeah, let's get this done and let's start doing this. And now I've got all these meetings throughout the week that I'm doing these, and it starts to dilute the time doing the core business. And so keeping a focused dial on what's the core, is super important. And then even in your personal life, it's like, what's the driver? Like for example, like morning routine, all that sort of stuff. Like what's the core non-negotiable that needs to sort of happen? And as you start to get really busy, you're like, oh, I start discounting it. Oh, I don't need to train or fucking whatever else. And then shit starts to fall apart. And so yeah, figuring out like what's your core one or two things that keep the lights on, and then do the third thing when time permits.
It's important. I was having a conversation the other day with a friend, and they were explaining to me like, hey, really struggling here to generate revenue. And I was like, open your calendar. Open the calendar, Mike. It's empty. I'm like, where's the money? And he's like, well, yeah, I'm working on that. I need to focus on my product development. I need to go craft this and that. I'm like, do you have a product you could sell right now? Yeah, but it's not perfect. Well, sell it, right? And I was explaining to him, like, if you look at your calendar, and this is a rule I've tried to apply for years, and the way I've organized my calendar is that, you know, I have all these meetings for all different types of things, and I started labeling them different colors.
Yeah.
And then for me,
I do that too.
Yeah, I get psycho on this, and I've never been like the fully meticulous planned type person. I've trained myself to do this, right? And I think it clears my mind up because I can look at my calendar at a glance and go, okay, green symbolizes money-making activities.
Lots of green, good news.
Yeah. If I look at a week and I don't see much green, I'm like, something's gone terribly wrong this week. If I look at my calendar, I'm like, yeah, 60% green, this is going to be a good week. So I think, you know, oftentimes people get so caught up in all these distractions. They go on left and right and they go on wayward, and it's like, just sit and look at your calendar and look at how much activity is being invested into your core competency that pays you. And in your case, it's property development.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 100%. And it's like, yeah, that was it. Like Adrian started ringing the bell like early on and be like, you need to stop. Then eventually be like, all right, you're fucking around now. But yeah, exactly that, right? It's like, what's the thing that pays you? Do that for most of your time. Like, crazy concept. You know, you need money to keep the fucking
And as a boxer,
on.
Get in the ring.
Get in the ring, mate, yeah.
Otherwise you're not making money.
Got to skip for another fucking 10 years before I get in there. No, fuck. Just get in there, mate.
I'm going to shadow box for another 6 months. There's no money in that.
Let me watch some more time. Yeah, exactly.
Now, with everything that you're doing, you're creating a legacy. You're doing a phenomenal job, you know, helping your community and focusing on helping create intergenerational wealth in Indigenous communities. But I think in many ways you could, you know, serve to support a lot of people. How do you want to be remembered?
How do I want to be remembered? I think I want to be remembered for, I don't know, on a small scale, on a big scale. I think
At a big scale.
on a big scale, yeah, for being the person, for being the one that changes for being the person that restarts the mentality shift for Aboriginal people, one of abundance, like thriving, like that really takes us back into thriving and away from surviving. So be the one responsible for creating the business that does that. So Indigenous Wealth. But I guess what I really want to be remembered for is for being the person in the people that I meet's lives that inspires them into some sort of action that they fucking should have always been doing, you know? So I feel like I do that anyway. So just make sure that happens, you know, because I think a lot of people in life, they got too many fucking yes men, you know, that are like, yeah, everyone's like pity partying each other and holding each other back as a way to make himself feel better and all this sort of stuff. Like very rarely do you have like a mate that actually wants the best for you or anything like that. I just want the best for everyone that's a good person. I think everyone fucking deserves to have whatever they want, you know, otherwise what are we all doing here, you know? And so, you know, if no one's tell you, I'm happy to tell you, but it's like, you deserve everything that you fucking can put your mind to. And you also owe it to yourself to do the things that are required to get there. You know what I mean? So you deserve it 100%, but it's your work that you got to be doing. And you're more than capable to fucking do it. So make sure you do it.
That's a good point. I think I asked myself a question on the weekend, and at the moment of this podcast, I burst my eardrum on the weekend.
Good news.
Good news, right? And and I was sitting there, and I was getting pissed off because I love listening to music. That's like my thing on the weekend. I'm like, gets me pumped up, rejuvenates me, heals my soul. It's my soul food. And I was frustrated because I can only hear in my left ear, and I was like, this is frustrating. And some of my hearings come back today. But the point of this question was, the question I asked myself was, what's the value of being comfortable?
Fuck, that's a good one.
Like, what is the value?
What do you get out of it?
What do you really get out of it? And it's like, you feel good. Okay.
Stroke your emotions.
Stroke your emotions. And what's the merit? What's the ROI of comfort? And I went back through my mind of every point in my business where I was like, man, this is pretty good. I'm pretty comfortable right now. And every single one of those moments led to a crunch in my business.
Yeah.
An absolute painful season thereafter.
Fuck, I agree.
And I have this belief that, you know, in business, you're either dying or you're scaling. A business can't stay comfortable. Like, name a company that's perfectly plateaued and stayed in comfort. They're either growing or they're contracting. But like, what is the value of comfort? To me, in business at least, there's not much ROI.
Yeah.
Maybe peace of mind, maybe some balance, but what else?
There's got to be none. There's got to be none. I say, yeah, it's like an emotion. Yeah, I fucking agree. I had a point there. What'd you say?
The question is, what is the value of comfort?
Oh, fuck, I had a great fucking point. So ADHD. That's why I always interject. I'm like, I'm going to lose that.
Dive in, man.
Sorry, bro.
What do you think, though? Like, what is the value of comfort?
Honestly, I don't think there is much value in comfort. I think it's all in the opposite of it. You know, it's all in the uncomfort. Because, that's it. Yeah, that's the fucking thing. So I fully believe, like, if you're a living organism, you are either growing or you're dying. And if you look like you're flat, like if it's seeming like everything's going well, you're probably just on a big bell curve that you can't see the inclination of down or up. Like, it's moving in one direction.
Like the curvature of the earth.
Yeah.
You can't quite see the downturn.
But it's going down, 100%. If it's going flat, it's not going up, it's fucking going down. So
the earth's not flat.
It's not flat, by the way. Yeah, that's it. Fucking DM me. No,
well, nature's a bitch, man. Like, I think, you know, like, I read this years ago, and it was like, if you take a creature out of its environment and you put it in a new environment, one of two things happens. It either learns how to thrive or it dies.
There you go.
And it has to adapt. New food sources, new predatory threats. And if it tries to live the same, it gets wiped out. It has to change. And I think when you go from, you know, living a childhood in poverty, and then all of a sudden you're trying to become wealthy, you're changing ecosystems.
Oh, yeah.
Which means your nourishment comes from a different place. You have different threats. Money becomes a very different object. People become a very different resource. Everything shifts. And I think you talked about this earlier where you start to lose friends.
It's an interesting, the whole that is an interesting journey. I think that's been that's what I like the most about the whole, I guess, the business fucking journey, is that it forces you to adapt so many different times or stay where you are, you know, or stay where you are. And the cool thing is that, like, I've, you know, start from the fucking so low and had to go through so many different little evolutions to get to where I am now. And even now, I feel like I'm maybe 1 or 2 evolutions and we get started. You know what I mean? Like, it's always constantly, there's always constant like work and evolution and adapting to do.
It's like your pig analogy. You can't grow tusks unless you're in the wild and you go a little feral for 6 weeks.
Yeah, exactly that. But yeah, 100% agree. Like, if you're not growing, like if you're not like struggling with something, trying to develop something, trying to improve something, you're 100% dying or working backwards or going backwards. Like, you're getting worse for sure. And it's true even in sales, you know. So if you're not selling, you're getting worse at it for sure. And if you're not doing it, you're not doing the art of it, you're not trying, you're not fucking actively trying to get better at it. Like, oh, this worked, this didn't work. Reflecting on it, it's getting worse. It's 100% blunting.
If you're not using it, you're losing it, right? And I learned this lesson recently. I stopped selling for about a year in my business. Yeah. Came back to it and I was like, man, I'm really shit at this again. And it took me about 6 weeks to get back to the level I was at a year ago.
Yeah. And
now I'm like going beyond that. I'm like, this is actually fun again, man. You gotta keep everything online. What's a quote or a mantra that you've carried with you on your journey that you wished everyone listening to this would immediately implement?
Can I say the other one?
Sure.
That's the one though. That is the only one. That is
yeah, I've already got it. Do you have any other quates that really speak to you? Maybe something from Mike Tyson or Goggins.
Book. Yeah, I think, therefore I am, right? And that's like another one on, like, I guess, he who thinks he can, he who thinks he can't, they're both right, you know? So I guess those, right, it's like you just want to take the fucking thing by the horns, right? And just like don't accept anything else other than what you got, because everything else is just an opinion that someone else has like served or put on top of you. It's not your reality, right? And it's like, you know, someone, he's a good one. So with Les Brown, so he says that in one of his speeches, it's like someone's opinion of you doesn't have to be your reality, and that's true.
Ooh,
right?
Yeah.
Someone's opinion doesn't have to be reality. It's like yours. Like, you get to create the whole thing. Pick beliefs, pick goals, pick whatever it is that serves you, because it's only you at the end of the day. When the curtains close, like, it's just fucking you and what you're done with it. So yeah, don't accept shit, accept what you want.
You know, I saw a piece of content the other day where someone was explaining, like, you know, you're you know, as an entrepreneur, you want to like have a balanced calendar, and you want to you know, make sure you got free time, and I only take 2 or 3 appointments a week, and I'm making a ton of money. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't have a team.
You're a fucking loser, bro.
That's fun when you're freelancing.
Fuck that.
But name an entrepreneur that's building an established, legitimate business with a ton of team members, a ton of cultural issues, payroll, tax, like an actual enterprise. Name one person who's not in it 12 hours a day for the first 5 years. Maybe a crypto bro here and there, but like someone who's building
not a chance.
A business, not a chance,
no one.
man.
Yeah, no one. There's literally not enough time in the fucking day, like all week at all, like zero. I'm just like, all right, well, these are going on to the next week's list. It's just a constant chasing your ass.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you get that. But it's what it is. What else would you be doing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What else would you be doing? And who's going to do
it? I think what you're doing is remarkable. I'm humbled by your story and just how much you've used that as a force to do good in the world and to help contribute to the people that you love and care about. If people are listening to this right now who are either in the Indigenous community or would like to play a support role in any way, shape, or form, how can they reach you?
So socials, so LinkedIn, Instagram. I think we got Facebook. I'm not sure. I keep getting banned. But anyway, Indigenous Wealth, or reach us on the website, www.indigenouswealth.com.au. Book a call. One of our team will reach out, help mob in any way, shape, or form we can.
Yeah. And I've got a lot of admiration for you, man. Incredible.
Thanks,
what you've been able to do. And thank you so much for giving me some of your time. I know you're on a busy schedule, but yeah, today was a ton of fun, and we'd love to get you back sometime.
Thanks, brother. Thanks for having me.
Yo, my name's Dane Walker, and I am disgustingly obsessed with branding. I had to figure out a way to do branding every single day, so I branded myself. Then, I started my agency, Rival. and hired a team of branding mavericks hell-bent on creating brands so good that they'll make your competition shit their pants. So here's the thing, you want your brand to go viral, and Rival makes brands go viral. That's why we're offering you a free 30-minute branding session to get an expert's opinion. If you don't believe me, the proof is in the pudding. Here's what clients have to say about Rival.
Rival is trusted by brands like Nutrition Warehouse, Light My Bricks, and Vumi.
So if you want to absolutely smelt the competition and make your brand go viral, hit the link below and book in your free 30-minute branding session.